Hey, it's Pallavi Kashyap. Welcome. Hello and welcome everyone to this new episode. And today I have with me my beautiful friend who is joining me all the way from US. Her name is Melinda Raebyne. A little brief about Melinda before we really start talking to her. So Melinda Raebyne is an award-winning Taiwanese American filmmaker who is fascinated and inspired by the resiliency of the human spirit. Learning of other people's journeys reinforces her belief that in each one of us, there's a hero's story waiting to be told. A self-taught filmmaker, Melinda received most of her training as an actor on set. After almost working for 10 years in acting in other people's films, Melinda decided to make her own films that speak from her heart, told through the voices of society's invisible, giving a voice to those who are typically forgotten in our society. Currently, Melinda serves on the board for Washington Lawyers for Arts and Washington Film Leadership Council. So welcome to my show, to my podcast, Melinda. It's lovely having you here. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you, Pallavi. It is so nice to be here and I'm very honored. And, I know you're all the way in India. So hello to those that are in India. It's great to connect with you and your audience members as well.
Yeah, thank you. So, Melinda, I've been following your work for a while, and I gave your intro. You wear different hats. You're an actor. You're a filmmaker. But what got me interested in you was your healing journey. I have your journey as well, but I want you to talk about your journey. What happened, what you went through, and what was the hero's journey at the end. So I want you to just tell us the whole story altogether.
Okay, I will do my best, and please feel free if I miss something to sure. Ask questions, or if there's something that you're interested in, that your audience sure. members would be interested in. And I think to start off with is I don't think we realize how strong we really are and how powerful we are as individuals and human beings until it comes to that time of a hardship that we couldn't even imagine that we'd ever face in our lifetime. And I think we're all faced different hardships. Mine happened to be my healing journey. I call it a journey because it really was. It is a hero's journey. And I do believe inside of all of us, there's a hero to be awakening and to be able to connect with yourself and your greater self. And so back in 2019, towards the beginning, early on that year, I started getting some rash. Right. And, in the past I was diagnosed with having eczema, but it never got to that stage. It was really, really minor. And as the year progressed, the condition got worse and it started to spread on my neck, on what we call the décolleté. And it was red, it was inflamed, it was swollen, and the same thing was under my arms. So it was very uncomfortable. And then comes March, and it escalated. It escalated to where it was like more covered in the upper part of my body, and was starting to go around my eyes. And I ended up going to the ER because I didn't have answers and never experienced anything like this before. And went to the ER and they said, oh, you needed a stronger dose of steroids, because I had gotten a really minor dose a couple weeks prior. I went to see an acupuncture, and she says she normally doesn't like to give it to me. She felt it was, issues with food, but that to help in the meantime, she'd give me some steroids and that we could re-look at the situation after a few weeks and see what happens. And it escalated. It made it worse. So I went to the ER, and then the ER said, no, you didn't get enough steroids, and we'll write a prescription and it'll be fine. It'll be all taken care of. So I took the steroids, and it, pretty much seemed to go away. And it was a very, very high dose of steroids, extremely high dose. And I was taking it for, I think it was 18 days. And I noticed as I was progressing, so you start off with a lot of pills. I can't remember how many. I want to say 6 pills of steroids for 3 days. And then you taper down. And so as I was tapering down, I noticed that the rash was starting to come back. The bumps were starting to come back.
Right.
And I knew that it was going to happen again. And this time I didn't know to what extreme it would happen. And a number of my friends had told me about Anthony Williams, AKA medical medium. And I was like, it was not an option for me to stay this way. Like, I was determined to find a cure. And, through past experiences, I know that there's great wisdom out there that Western medicine doesn't necessarily use or practice. That's, for whatever reason. And, I wholeheartedly had this belief. I actually also watched a documentary a little bit before the condition had escalated, before March, and it's called Heal. It's a phenomenal documentary. Yeah. I ask that if anybody is going through any kind of healing journey, not just like mine, but any sorts of healing journey, please take a look at it. It provides a source of wisdom and inspiration. There's spiritual leaders from around the world and respected scientists who talk about the ability that we have as individuals to heal. And I am a walking, living, breathing current example that we absolutely have this ability. I am no one extra special than any one of us, any of us. It's just that I really had this adamant faith and belief that I have the power to heal, and I had the power to heal, but I had to connect to myself.
Your real source of power.
Yes, the real source of power, which I believe we all have. And there's, I don't feel that it's vain to say within all of us is God. And, it's this energy source that's within us. And so I really took that time when I was sick to connect to source, to connect to my higher self. And I'll go into a little bit more in detail about how I did that. So watching Heal before I really got sick, and I really believe this is amazing how God works, is like you get these tools along the way as you're going along your journey. If you pay attention, you will see how you are guided and how you're given things. And go ahead. Please.
And like how you said, you're guided, and your case is exactly that. Before you got sick, you got that movie, you got those tidbits for what you have to do. So you got all those key kind of support in that movie. And along your journey, you had people who would tell you and who would support you in that journey. I also remember you mentioned that what was the doctor's diagnosis and what did they say versus what you did? I see there's a huge difference. So can you tell us a little more on that?
Absolutely. So I went to numerous doctors, number of specialists, and ultimately the diagnosis was that I had moderate. So if you see the pictures, I don't think it's moderate. It was definitely severe, severe eczema is what they called it. And, in Western medicine, eczema is a condition that is an autoimmune, which means that your immune system is basically fighting it. Attacking. Thank you. Attacking
your
yourself.
Own cells. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I had the diagnosis, which this is what they say in Heal. Take your diagnosis, know what your diagnosis is, but do not believe in the prognosis. When they give you this horrific prognosis, which they do a lot of times, not saying all the times, there's doctors that, believe, yes, you can get better and but my doctors that I was seeing were like, this is what you will have for the rest of your life. And we can give you more steroids to help the condition. And I said, whoa, number one in my head. And I did not tell the doctor this. I'm like, this will not be an option for me to have for the rest of my life. I will not have this. And I knew that I was healthy before. So if I was healthy before, there's absolutely no reason that I cannot be healthy again. And the doctor wanted to, and he was gracious. The specialist was gracious. He got me in early appointment. He's normally jam-packed and stuff. And he, I told him, and I showed him pictures of the conditions, with having done steroids. And he actually didn't even ask me. And he said, okay, we're going to give you this shot. And I was like, well, what's this shot that you're going to give me? And he said, well, it's steroids. And I'm like, did you not listen to any of my story? Did you not see the pictures? Like, why would you give me something that my body will respond horrific to and seems to aggravate, and aggravate's a kind word to use, the condition, because I was oozing. You'll see pictures of me where it looks like my skin's glowing, but I'm oozing out fluid, pus out of my skin all over. So I couldn't understand, and I'm in shock, and I'm like, and I just was like, in my head, I was like, no, I just can't do it. And so I left the doctor's office without the shot. And he basically thought I was crazy. And he said to me that, I made a special time for you just to come in. And I don't know if I'll be able to make this a time for you again for a long time if you're not going to do the shot. And I couldn't do it. I could not put my body through it again. And so I left very, very devastated and heartbroken. But by that time, I had already started medical mediums and protocol. So Anthony Williams talks about eczema, and he talks about it in which I think is a very profound but knowledgeable and way in looking at eczema. And the fact is that your body is, and if you think of an illness, not that it's fighting you and you're getting sick, but it's your body trying to help you and warning you and talking to you about what's going on. I think we would change our mindsets about how, healing.
Yeah.
And I think we would stop going into that depression mode, because I understand, like, we go into that depression mode and it's hard to get out of it. You need a very, very uplifting and powerful mindset, which we all have, to get us through this journey of our healing journey. And so Anthony Williams talks about, it really starts with the liver, and it starts with, having issues in your liver, a sluggish liver, a fatty liver, and you got to heal that. But then there's also things in your body. There's metals in your body, and then there's pathogens, and metals comes from our environment. I mean, I hate to say it, but I don't believe that there really is any place where there's clean air or clean water anymore. And it's really sad. We've contaminated our sacred home, which is Earth, Mother Earth. Yeah. And, and the soil is contaminated through the rainwater, because of the rainwater. It has fossil fuel fragments within it, So, we're breathing all of this in constantly and continuously throughout the day. And then a lot of our products that we have in our house, which we don't even think about, cleaning products, perfumes, shampoos, how we prepare our food. If you're using a cutting board that is plastic, well, that plastic you're cutting with is, look at your cutting board. If you don't believe me, pick up your cutting board and look at it, and you will see slices on your cutting board where there's no longer plastic. Well, that plastic went somewhere, and it most likely went into your body. Not to mention that there's plastics in the ocean, there's plastics in our fish, there's mercury in our waters, there's mercury in our fish. So those things that you eat, it goes into your body. And if you aren't taking in food that takes out those pollutants, those toxins, it stays in your body and it can't get out and it can't be released. So I've got these metals, and I was, for the condition I had to have copper, and I had to have mercury, and I had to have a pathogen. And pathogen it's a virus, it's a bugs. We all get bugs and viruses, but I had those, and they came together, and I had a sluggish liver. And what happened was the body was trying to help me and trying to heal me. And where does it go if it can't go out the proper ways and means, through our bowel movements? And I wasn't, and this is something that I wanted to tell people, I wasn't having regular bowel movements. I was fortunate if I had it once or twice a week, and it was not necessarily the nicest experience to have. Now I have regular bowel movements every single day. It's constantly, I'll have a bowel movement, and you got to think about that. That's how your toxins come out of your body, right? True. And also through
your exercises, or if you have other practices.
Exactly. And so I wasn't releasing that. And then where does it go? It goes out to your skin. It's trying to get rid of it. And then it shows, and it's visibly on your skin. I really do believe the majority of what we see on our skin is what's happening inside of us. And so I was already doing medical medium. I was doing the celery juice every single day. I was doing lemon water in the morning before the celery juice, and in the evening before I went to bed, doing the detox smoothie on top of it. I went all plant-based diet. And I also went and I followed his within his 3-6-9 cleanse diet. He has foods to stay, kind of food groups to eat within. I stayed within those food groups. And I think because I was so rigorous in my diet, but also working on my spiritual connection to source, connecting to myself, meditating, being honest. I had some really hard days and I broke down and I cried and I gave it all to God, and I just wept and I just wailed. And the pain was so excruciating. You just felt like I just felt like my skin was on fire, and it literally looked at times that it was burning, and it just hurt. And then, but then I was mentally like, there was nothing but that I was going to be healed. And so when I broke down and when I cried, then I would get myself back up, and I would give gratitude, because there was always something to be thankful for. And you need to lift yourself to those higher vibrations. And even through my healing journey, there was something to be thankful for. And I would ask, I would be like, I just need something. God, I need something to get me through. And I would see something. And they were, they were subtle. But if you paid attention, you would see the blessings that you have, or what you ask for, you will see it. Maybe it's not the way you're thinking you would. When I asked for something to help get me through and get me going, maybe it wasn't what I was thinking of, this completely healed skin the next morning that I woke up, not possible, but there was something for me to, see. And it took me about 8 months, and where the condition was pretty much gone.
Oh, it's gone. It went off.
It pretty much was gone. I mean, I had little spots here and there, and even still to this day, if I'm not careful with the foods or what I put in my system, or those things that are hard on the liver or stress, they will, I will have a flare up. And I actually had dealt with a flare up not too long ago, and it was one that was really kind of persistent. There was mixed in it with some Western medicine, and Western medicine does not work very well with my body. So
it's and when you were taking us through your story, what came to my mind was, like, for any emergency, Western medicine is where we need to go. So we also need to make choices what do we select. So during an emergency, even when you had that, you had to go to the emergency and get it treated. So I think for emergencies, Western medicine is the best. But what I was talking was, when anybody goes to a doctor, so there are two types of people. One, whatever the doctor says, yes. And there's another set, the second set, like you and probably I also belong to that set. And we're not challenging, but we always think that, okay, there could be more. Why not just explore? And there's Google, and that does not mean just abuse Google and do all kind of search, but, doing the right kind of search. And when you get these kind of, people directing you to sources, so I was just thinking on these two. I don't know if there are more categories, but just these two, like 180-degree shift. You did not take what the doctor said, and you went on your own, and and probably also because I think it depends also the kind of issue, the kind of ailment one has. For example, if it is something chronic but it is not very serious, then alternative medicine can be thought or looked on. But if it is something really life-threatening, which needs an emergency or something important, what are your views on that? Because what made you go and select Eastern medicine? Because is it something because you wanted to, or because you had time, or because you absolutely had no belief on Western medicine? What was it that made you choose medical medium or the Eastern medicine side?
Sure. And, I am not saying Western medicine is bad, it's completely bad, it's all wrong, I've had surgeries that have helped me, and there's absolutely good in it. I think, though, that we've moved from the wisdom of plant medicine and knowledge of plant medicine over to more human manufactured medicine. And I feel like we need to bring that pendulum back. And I heard one time at a lecture from a respected scientist who said, if I remember correctly, earlier on, about 60% of medicine was based on plant and herbal medicine. And it's unfortunate that we've really veered off of that. There's, so much great knowledge in that. And thank goodness there's people who still hold that knowledge. And I hope that knowledge gets to be shared more to the masses, becomes more available as people realize that it isn't just Western medicine is the only way. And the reason I took my journey elsewhere is, and I'm thankful for it. I've had a very strong spiritual connection and belief, and knew that there was other alternative medicines out there or healing modalities out there besides just Western medicine. And again, like I said, Western medicine is phenomenal. It does some great things, but I also think because of how it's taught, it's narrowed the mind perception of how to be healed. And so prior to being sick, I was already doing certain things like sound baths. Baths is using for people who don't know, like this, the Tibetan singing bowls, the crystal bowls, and incorporating meditation with it. So that, there's talk about how those sounds can connect to a deeper level within the body of bringing out healing. And I had for many years prayed with my medicine man. He was taught the ancient ways through his grandmother. He's Native American, Apache, and I had been praying with him already. So I already had my door opened to a little bit of the glimpse into that world. And I knew for me what it did to my soul and my essence and how I felt that I came alive. And I remember when I first started going into looking at, besides just the Christian way of religion, of faith, I asked my mentor and I said to her, well, how do you know? Because, at that time I just felt so betraying of my Christian ways and stuff. And, at that time, especially in Christianity and a lot of branches of Christianity, if you go into any kind of branch off to any other kind of religious sector, it's like you're a witch, you're burning hell, you're blasphemy, and I never felt that way with God. I never had that connection with God. Even before I even started going to any churches, I was very little, and I always had this connection that I just always believed. I'm like, how, if I come from God, is God not already in me? How do I not already have that deep rooted connection, or could have that deep rooted connection with God? And I think having that question and that wonder and that curiosity early on helped open those doors to other alternative things. And my mentor said, you will know when it's right because it will resonate with your heart. It will feel right with your heart. And I always use that as a compass and a guide. I think sometimes we allow our fears to overtake, and that becomes so loud in our head that we can't feel our heart. But I know when I've calmed my mind down and I connect to myself, my source, you will feel that. You will feel that connection. And a lot of it is so subtle and so quiet, and you just have to be willing to calm yourself down to hear and to pay attention to it. And it's helped me not just with healing on my body, but also within myself. I think we've all gone through hardships and pains that have created mental traumas, and it's helped me through that, helped me through my fear of connecting deeply with, someone, to have a romantic partner in life. And I had to do a lot of self-work. And so a little veer off on that, but I'll come back.
I wanted to come to that because what I've also read, emotions, when they are held up in your body, when they're not addressed, for emotions are to be felt, that's life. But if we, for example, an anger or a grief, that kind of an emotion, it has to stay with us for a period. You can't have an extended period, like let's say 6 months, but if we carry it on for 3 years, so that needs a release. So how do we release that? So when that is not being addressed, it goes and attacks our body, and through the body, it could be an organ, an area, and that's how that happens. So I don't know if you can connect that and say, or if you have any experience, or if you can share anything, if you have anything in particular, and shed some light in that area, that would be great.
Yes. So yes, I do. Oh, and just to go back on to real quick to wrap it up, the Eastern medicines that I use. So we talked about sound baths, but I did Reiki. I had Reiki done to me a couple times. So people who don't know what Reiki is, it's energy work. They're not putting their hands physically touching you, but they put the hands around you. So I would go to Reiki at least once a week to anywhere up to 3 times a week. And it was phenomenal where I live. There's communities that provided that source. I also sought out acupuncture to a doctor who really practices it, who understands the makeup and the mechanism of the body and where to put the needles and when you're putting the needles and what it does. I mean, she studied Chinese medicine. She originally from China, looked at my tongue and said exactly what was wrong with me. And she would point to organs when she laid me down, and they would just be like, I just have shock through my body and, just pain in my liver and in my kidneys. And so she would put the put the needles in the spots, did the cupping, but understood, so many times people are like, oh, I went to an acupuncture. Yes, I got cupping done. So cupping is that glass, and you heat it up and they sucks it to your skin. But yes, you can get that done for relaxation and massage purposes, but that's completely different than going to see someone who understands it and uses it as medicine and really knows how to use it as medicine. And, prayer, meditation is medicine also in healing, because you connect and contempt to your body and you really look at, I really went in. The documentary Heal talks about looking at yourself as if you're already healed. And so I would never say I'm looking forward to being healed. I always said, I am healed. My body is 100% healed. It is stronger and better or powerful than it ever was. And I would even say that my skin is soft, smooth, firm, tight. And it is now, like if you touch it, it is like baby soft to the touch in the areas that were inflamed. And my hair, I had lost about half of my hair, and then I ended up having to eventually cut it. And now my hair is thicker than it was before I got sick. And I even would say, and I would put my hand above my head and I would say, and I remember when I was really devastated and I would have piles of hair coming out of the shower, and I would run to the mirror and look and be like, where is a weird spot? And I never had like one like bald spot. Thank God. It just kind of, the hair was coming evenly throughout, falling out evenly throughout my head. But when I would meditate and I would start to feel down as my meditation, and I would think of my hair, I don't know, I would never see myself bald. I always saw my hair coming back fuller and thicker. And, and it's honestly what has happened. My hairdresser could attest to this. She's like, Melinda, your hair is thicker than it was before. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Isn't it great? And, but talking about, I wanted just to clarify and let people know some of the other modalities that I used. And I never did go back to steroids. I did, because of the condition of my skin, I had gotten a severe staph infection. And at the beginning, as I was doing medical medium and really incorporating in, those 4 categories of healing: physical, emotional, spiritual, mental, I was finishing off my antibiotics. I had a severe staph infection, so I had to take the antibiotics. And medical medium says, he says this, and he's like, I am not telling you to get off of your medication.
Absolutely, yeah.
But here are other things. And then, but I made the choice that I wasn't going to be on any of the medications. And I think eventually people who really use plant-based medicine for healing will see that they eventually won't need it. I would say, like, in many cases, I'm not going to say all cases, everybody's different. Honestly, my heart of hearts, I do believe that it could be all cases, but don't want to say that and get in trouble. But so to talk about the emotional and mental aspect, and I absolutely agree with you that if you hold that stress, if you hold that trauma into your body, it does damage. It's scientifically proven that stress on the body, breaks it down, and then it evolves into a disease, and it evolves into illness. And I think is it Reverend Beckwith that says it's not a disease, but a dis-ease, right?
Not at ease,
Right. And medical medium says that it's your body telling you something. It's really, you got to look at your body as this magnificent grandeur of a creation. Like we all need to look at ourselves and see ourselves how magnificent we are. And it talks about how in order for each and every one of us to be born, it is truly a miracle. The ratio to line everything up to get us here in this moment in time is not an accident, but it is truly a miracle. You are truly, truly, truly a miracle. And don't allow an illness to
stop
beat you down.
Yes, to doubt yourself.
It actually should lift you up and make you stronger and be like, oh my God, my body is amazing and it's trying to tell me something. What is it that I'm not listening to? What is it that I'm not doing that it is trying to help me to get me there? And I sought after someone that I really respected, and I had known her for a number of years. She does these things, called writings. And I reached out to her, and she looks at the illness in a spiritual way, and she would do writings for me, and she would do them throughout my healing journey. And it would be about things that I needed to work on, that emotionally, spiritually, that I needed to work on. And only I could do the work with source and to let go. I think we hold on. My first movie that I did looked at mental trauma brought on by sexual domestic abuse. And it wasn't to highlight the sexual domestic abuse, but it was more to highlight the mental trauma and how we put up these protective walls, these protective, invisible walls, thinking that they are protections, right? So the movie's called Asylum, is what it's called. And I picked the word for two reasons. One is the asylum, the safety, the refuge we seek within ourselves, that ends up becoming our prison if we don't get out of it, if we don't find our way through. And the person in the story, what was being told, Jackie was in a mental asylum. Okay. And so, you have to watch the movie to find out, but it's really hard. So I'll send you a private link. You can watch it. Sure, but and we forget how much it takes for us to ask for help, how much strength. And I think sometimes we think of that as just this little small thing, and it isn't. It takes a lot of strength to ask for help, especially when you've gone through pain and trauma. And all of us have gone through some sort of pain and trauma. And if you do not release it and let it go, seeking help within yourself, to look at the situation, to feel the situation, like you said, you've got to feel it, right? You've got to experience it, and then you have to be willing to let it go. And so I didn't just recognize that, hey, I have these issues that I'm dealing with, but I looked at it. I identified the pain of it. I recognized the gift that it was giving me, and I thanked the person, and I let them go peacefully. I let that go peacefully. And so it was really, I always say in my healing journey, I didn't only get my health back. It wasn't just the health, but I got another gift from it. And if you go through your journey, your healing journey, you don't just get what it is that you're seeking to heal from, but you get something else. There's something else that that creator is wanting you to know. It's another gift that you get, and you become a stronger, more truer, more vibrant version of yourself. You become,
there's something that was to be revealed, and through that issue, that ailment, it was a way to address, and you came out of it a newer version of you.
Yes. Yes. And it doesn't mean that it's easy. It doesn't mean
that
you got this knowledge. Yeah. And then after the fact, after I've been healed, and I knew the knowledge of, like, I needed to open up. I needed to know that I was deserving of love, that I, just like any of us, we deserve to be loved. And I think we think we're not good enough. We lack. And I think you and I talked about this. We both met on Tony Robbins, and through his, great, wonderful training courses that he does. And I was so thankful to have that. And I did that during COVID. And I realized that there was, still parts of me fighting in that belief if I'm good enough. Right. And stuff. And so, and I got kind of put to the test, I guess you would say, towards the end of this last year. And this year I met someone, and I opened myself up, and, I remember I stood by the window and I just prayed. I prayed and I prayed, like, can I do this? Can I open myself up? Can I share about how I feel? And, I'm going to be honest, because the person asked me if I loved him. And it took a long time for me to answer that. And I eventually went and I said, yes, I do. And it did not turn out the way you think, where the person then responds, I do too. The person actually said, that's not good. It's not a good thing, because I'm not available for love. So, and that, honestly, I'm just going to be honest, that just happened a few days ago, but it didn't crush me like it would have in the past, because it was like, I recognize, like, I was truthful, and I'm truthful for where I'm at, and I'm truthful where I am. And a person's response does not dictate if I'm worthy of love. It's just that person's response is that person's response. And I have to honor that and where that person's at, and recognize that, send the person love, and allow them to go on their journey in their life, and allow myself to continue on and to live my life full and completely. So I don't want people to think like, this happened and I healed and I did all this work, all this comes out perfectly. And, I'm just being honest. This is what happened. It didn't break me, though. And I responded in a different way. And I think that in itself is a beautiful, beautiful gift that shows that I have emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and obviously physically grown from who I was before. Right. And it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen and I won't connect to someone on that, level of love that, I know that's out there for me. It's just, I know that now, that I know that I am absolutely deserving of it. And that I can move forward gracefully and with love in my life for that person and for myself. And I remember before being sick, I used to say, God, I can't hear, like, I don't see signs that well. So you just need to talk to me in neon lights and neon bright signs. My skin was neon red. And I said to God, I was like, never again. I will never, ever need you to talk to me ever again in neon. I will learn to hear you in a whisper. I will learn to hear you in the most subtle ways. And, I feel like I've gotten that down a lot better. I'm not saying I'm perfect or perfect.
Yeah, we are all work in progress, but yeah.
Right. But I definitely do not need neon.
Absolutely.
Signs, lights, sirens, ever again. Yeah. So.
What I also collected from your story was your issue with that inflammation was a physical sign of things not going well in the emotional world, in the mental world. Probably the spiritual connection was also missing. So when you brought all of these things together, your life dramatically changed. So what I also want the viewers, the listeners to get this message that healing is not just the physical body, and just taking medicines, which is for the physical body, it's not going to get you relieved of all the issues, because the disease could be because something is running in your mind, could be because you always overthink, because there's so much stress, because you were probably always sad, and could be a depression. That depression is showing in through some ailment, and you are willing to work on it only when that issue becomes physical. That issue probably was already there for a few years, but we didn't address it till it got physical, till we saw those burns or those eruptions in our body. So when we look at healing, it's not just, we do address the physical body, but then like you said, you did your meditations, you did a lot of breath work, you did all these kinds of alternative. I'm not saying that that is the way, but you made an attempt to address your issue at so many other levels, not just the physical. And I also wanted to ask, if you have to advise somebody, would you just say, oh, drink celery every day and have lime water and your skin eruptions will be under control? Would you say that?
No, and even Medical Medium doesn't say that. He, in his books, it's phenomenal. They're not expensive. We are not in contact. He shared my post one time, and I think that was probably his team sharing the post, not him, honestly. Right. But it's not like I'm, get some profit from talking about him.
Yeah, it should not be like promotional.
Yeah, I'm not a paid advertisement for him or anything like that. And his information's out there. I went online, looked and saw that there was people with similar skin conditions. There's a woman and her condition was severe like mine, and she had healed. And I was like, all right, I'm absolutely going to do this. And I had sought wisdom from someone. Her name is Tashi dos Santos. She's in Australia, and I had known Tashi for a number of years. But one of the things she told me is that there's something that's going to come to you, and you need to stick with it. You need to stay with it, and you need to go through the whole, you're going to get told different things, but a lot of things, but you're going to decide on something and you need to stay with it. You need to stick it out. Started following Medical Medium's protocol. Her wisdom resonated, her words resonated in my ears. And I decided, hands down, I was going to follow what Medical Medium says. But what he says also is he touches on those aspects. I mean, he's so much known for plant-based healing, healing for the body. But what people don't highlight is that he talks about these things. He has in the back of his books meditations to do. Right. And he talks about connecting to yourself, and the meditations connect to your source. And he says how bad he feels for people who are dealing with illnesses. So, having that emotional connection to you. So he's not just saying, just do celery juice and you'll be fine. No, he talks about a bandwidth of food, plant food. What is good and why is it good and what does it do and why are other foods aren't good? And the ones that aren't good are really the artificial kinds of things, the things that that didn't come from nature. And I really do believe that we weren't put on this planet that without the means of getting better through nature. I mean, we see it in other cultures, indigenous cultures. We see it in, in Brazil and those in the rainforest and the Amazons, and how there's so much medicine in those plants and what they can do in healing. And they don't just say the plant medicine, your healing journey is a very spiritual journey that if you're willing to go through it, awakens you and opens doors and for you to see things in a different way, in a different light. And so, it isn't, I don't want your viewers or your listeners to think, just do the celery. It will absolutely help. Absolutely. It will help in a lot of things. But if you are dealing with something serious and an illness, there's other things that you need to do. I still do celery juice every morning. I still do my lemon water every morning. And do I see a difference if I leave it behind versus if I do it? Yes. But that is not the only thing I do. I still do my meditations. I meditate now twice a day. I still go to sound baths. I still get an acupuncture. I went to my acupuncturist and I was like, Dr. Wong, I need to follow up. And look at me. How am I doing? And, and we need to love ourselves. I cannot tell you how important that is. If I remember I would look at myself in the mirror and think, oh my gosh, just look at me. Look at my skin, and I just felt so unlovable. And I remember saying to myself, I'm like, I'm so glad I'm alone right now, that I don't have a partner in life. I don't have a boyfriend in life because he would leave me. Because that's all it's honestly, if we're going to get raw, we're going to get down to it. It's something that I knew for most of my life is those who were supposed to stay didn't stay. And, and left me. And I think a lot of my strength and my willpower comes from knowing that I could pick myself back up and I could be the one to get myself where I needed to go. But it also becomes my asylum, my prison. But I remember looking in the mirror and being like, and I would have fluids just on my bed sheets because I would be draining fluids, the toxins out of my body, and just be like, no one would ever want to be with someone like me in this kind of condition. And I just didn't have that love for myself. And I remember someone, I can't remember, it was a friend who said to me, you need to thank your skin when it's burning and it's inflamed and it's in pain and you're in pain, not just the times when the inflammation goes down, because it's helping you. And it just really stuck with me. And I remember I would say in the mirror, I would say, thank you for being so strong, and you're beautiful and you're radiant, and we're going to get through this together. I have these Post-its and I still keep my Post-its up. And I remember I wrote on the Post-its, and they're on all the different rooms in my house so that I could be mentally strong. And I first wrote, let me just grab this.
Okay.
I told you I have them all in my house. And I first wrote on there that I've got this ! Smiley face. And I said, no, that's not right. It's not an I thing. It's we've got this. So you'll literally see that I changed them. So here was I got this, and changed it to we, because I didn't do this journey by myself. I did it with physical friends and people that I knew. I did it with Anthony Williams, even though he didn't know. I did it with the person that created the documentary Heal. I did it, even the Western medicines and even the specialists, like they helped me to make the decision to go to decide to do something else. And I did it with my ancestors. Right. And I did it with my ancestors who passed and who their essence and their energy still resides in me. I did it with my medicine man who prayed for me from thousands of miles away. I did it right before I got sick. I went to a silent meditation retreat. It was hosted by Agape Spiritual Center, which is Reverend Michael Beckwith's place. I did it with those people before I got sick. Their prayers and our meditations and our welcoming in the new year had already solidified and put the foundation. I did it with God. I did it with my higher self. I did it with my body. So there's so much in making sure. There's so many people, energy, beings that made sure that I was healed and I was healthy, whether I met them in person or I will never meet them in the physical plane. They were there with me. So
nice. I was just trying to connect what your story is versus what I do, like when it is energy healing. So what medicines do is medicines, your body itself is an intelligent machine and it knows what it needs to do. Every cell is equipped with that intelligence, and the cells make up these organs. So they're all connected. And I also read somewhere, how if one organ is failing, how the other jumps in to support that or failing organ. And there's a whole mechanism itself. The body itself is like one unit, protecting, supporting, or, doing all the work. So when we are taking a medicine, it is just to give the body a boost to its own healing power. So when we talk about energy healing, we are saying that we are giving energy, or we are giving life energy, or we are giving prana. So for example, if there is an organ that is failing or that is injured or whatever, that means the life energy there is less or reduced. And with energy healing, that life energy is given just to give that power. Healing journey is faster. So I was just connecting the dots, like physical healing and how the energy heal combined. If you had just taken the celery juice, but not taken the rest of the alternative healing methodologies, you would have still healed, but I was just connecting. Last year, I fell sick, and 10 years back, I was also unwell. And that time I had no knowledge of anything, like the alternative healing side. So that time I was totally dependent on Western medicine. I was in the hospital for so many days. And after that, recovery took me another 2 months. And then I was taking steroids. I took so many medicines. I healed, but then I was so puffy because I had all toxins in my body, the medicine side effects. I started losing hair and I was in a different world. At that time, I had no idea. But now recently I had, I was unwell for a while again. And my recovery was so smooth, because I took energy healing in that period. The kind of medicines I took when I was unwell again, the last year, if I had not taken any of the energy medicines, or if I had not been on my meditation schedule, my meditation routine, if I had not taken this support, I would have surely recovered like the last time with big pimples on my face, losing so much of my hair. So this recovery was so beautiful. I mean, I did go through a bad phase, but the recovery was smooth, I would say, So yes, I think I was just connecting the dots, like the physical healing. And when you do your meditations, we are not just closing our eyes and, we are doing so much more. You're trying to connect to the source. You're trying to bring down divine energy, and there's divine healing happening, which we may not understand, but there's surely that background work that's happening. And also when you were talking about plant medicine, I was just correlating, like in India, we have Ayurveda. So I don't know if that's a direct equivalent. I was just trying to bring all the separate dots together and make sense. So the physical healing with healing at different layers, like meditation, we do breath work, and also change in the lifestyle, like how you said about you brought in changes to what kind of foods you select to eat. You're plant-based, you said now. So there are so many things, and it's like a dramatic, comeback. I know you're going to inspire so many people who are in this journey and, who are looking for an answer. And you are surely a living example. When you have a story, when you have somebody who's actually gone through that or doing it, things very simple for others to do something similar. So I think we spoke a lot, and I think you dropped in so many gems, and you almost talked about everything from your life, be it your mental health or your emotional health, not just physical. So and also how being spiritual and having the source guide you, because at many times you said you were guided, you got the right information at the right time. So that's all divine timing and somebody guiding you. And who's that somebody? The source, the creator, the power. So that's how I would conclude that healing is not just physical, and an ailment is not always like how you very beautifully said, you needed to release so many things. And so, which is why through this, you could release. I'm just trying to summarize, just let me know, or you can just add in if I missed out something.
You're great.
So, yeah. And ailment is also your, if you have any issue, it's also your body calling for your attention. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. So get it addressed, and there's no harm in exploring alternative healing methodologies. I think I summarized it well. If there's anything I missed out, dropped, you can add.
No, you did. You summarized it very, very well. I would just say for people to look at my story as an inspiration, but look to yourself. Mm-hmm. Look to yourself. Like, don't use other people to inspire you, but turn to yourself to realize the power within you. And yeah, no, thank you. Appreciate you having me on. It's wonderful. I hope that we continue to connect.
Sure.
And I wish you all the best in what you're doing. And thank you for allowing me to share my story, and may it inspire and help others as they go through their journey.
Yeah. So if somebody wants to connect to you, or if they just want to follow you, where can they follow you?
Yeah, so I do my best. And when I published my story about being sick, I got so many responses. I think I got about 1,000 from comments to personal messages. And I responded to every single one of them. It took some time because I know what it's like to go through and just not you're feeling so alone, and on this journey, especially in the beginning, or especially when you've been doing it for a while and you don't feel like you're seeing the results that you had hoped for. So I get it. When people reach out, I know that it takes a lot. It takes a lot of courage to reach out. And I understand that desperation. So yes, I do try to respond to everybody that I can, and they could find me on Instagram or on my Facebook at Melinda Raebyne Films. So
Okay.
please
Right.
connect me on Melinda Raebyne Films, or I have a website if you want to see my work. And there's a way to send me an email through there on Melinda Raebyne Films again. So I just
Yeah, that reminds me, we never spoke about what you do in your films. Maybe we can pick it up in another episode. We just talk about your health and your comeback story on that. So like I said already, I wanted to capture this story and share it with as many people as possible, so that they realize, like how you said, how magnificent we are, and how powerful we all are. So I think you're working on a lot of projects, and we'll keep a check on your profiles that you mentioned, and we'll stay connected, and let's see if we can do another episode.